The Boston Bruins are ramping up their search for a new head coach, which might eliminate Misha Donskov, but could elevate Marco Sturm.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Friday, May 23rd. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins your first listen every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on today's episode, we are going to bring you the latest on the Boston Bruins search for a new head coach. A big update offered yesterday by hockey insider Pierre LeBrun, and we will discuss who the remaining candidates are and who I would like to see elevated from that group. We're also going to touch on the World Championships, where on Saturday there will be a big showdown between Jeremy Swayman, Andrew Peak on Team USA, and Elias Lindholm of Team Sweden, with the Czechs having been eliminated yesterday in the quarterfinals, with David Pastrnak, Jacob Lauko going home. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. That's X, Blue Sky, Instagram, even TikTok. You can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan. Been covering this team for various outlets and the NHL at large for about 20 years. And of course, you can subscribe to Locked On Boston Bruins on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. On Thursday, hockey insider Pierre LeBrun tweeted out the following. On the Bruins coaching search, my understanding is final interviews will be conducted next week, and then a decision to come after that. Not sure who made the cut. Boston has talked to a lot of people. And he said Marco Sturm, Jay Woodcroft, Mitch Love, Luke Richardson, Joe Sacco, Jay Leach, among those believed to have interviewed. So from that group, there's going to be final interviews next week, and a decision could come, this time next week. We could have a guy behind the bench for the Boston Bruins. Now, LeBrun said among those interviewed were those 6 that he named. And for me, there's a clear ranking of these guys, and we'll discuss the internal options coming up in a bit. But for me, the number 1, number 2 guys are Marco Sturm and Mitch Love. Why Sturm? Well, former Bruin. I would love to see a former Boston Bruin behind the bench. He, of course, came from the San Jose Sharks to the Bruins in the Joe Thornton trade about 20 years ago now. He is currently the head coach of the Ontario Reign of the AHL. Previous roles include assistant coach with the LA Kings. He's also head coach of the German national team. He doesn't have NHL head coaching experience, but he does have experience behind the bench and in a high-level coaching position in the Kings organization. And of course, the Kings have a new general manager in the mix, so perhaps Ken Holland will be willing to part with Sturm in order to have a bit of a reset. He has a unique profile, Marco Sturm does. NHL veteran with international coaching credentials and a current AHL head coach with the Ontario Reign. He's best known for leading Germany to a very surprise silver medal at the 2018 Winter Olympics, which is a testament to his leadership ability to perhaps achieve with a limited roster. Soft-spoken kind of guy, but deeply respected and a strong emphasis on structure and trust. And he's obviously got some development chops as well as an AHL head coach. And a lot of guys have come up and succeeded through the LA Kings organization. He's maybe not the flashiest pick, but he's smart, patient, could grow into the job and bring a long-term vision to the Boston Bruins. Given his international success, his NHL ties, his history with the Bruins, we all remember Fenway Park, Winter Classic, the goal, the fight. He could quietly become a top-tier NHL coach with the right front office support. And if Misha Donskov of the Dallas Stars is off the table, Sturm is my number one choice. But a close second would be Mitch Love, assistant coach of the Washington Capitals. He previously was the head coach of the Calgary AHL team. And he's widely considered one of the brightest up-and-coming coaching minds in hockey. He won the Louis A.R. Pieri Memorial Award as AHL Coach of the Year twice, 2022, 2023, a rare accomplishment that speaks to his tactical ability and his impact on player development, two areas of great need for the Boston Bruins. His teams are known for their high work ethic, buy-in, accountability, and he's consistently gotten more out of less. He brings a modern voice, fresh systems, and a track record of preparing young players for NHL readiness, all of which are crucial for a Bruins team in transition. Love is a high-ceiling option who could become the kind of culture-defining coach Boston hasn't had since like Claude Julien in his prime. Those are the two guys that I would love to see the most. The other guy who's maybe a distant third would be Jay Woodcroft, who most recently was head coach of the Edmonton Oilers back in 2022-23 before they replaced him with, Connor McDavid's junior coach. He was a fast riser who took over the Oilers mid-season in 2022, immediately led them to the Western Conference Final. His communication skills, his offensive creativity, and ability to manage stars, major strength, but he kind of struggled to implement a reliable defensive structure. And after the Oilers had a poor start in 2023-24, he was let go 13 games into the season. Kind of reminds you of what happened with Jim Montgomery. There is still a very promising coach here, and there is something to be said for guys who have been given their first opportunity, didn't succeed, what they learned from that and what they're able to come back and achieve in their next go around. You saw that with Bruce Cassidy. Let go from the Bruins, immediately gets his next opportunity, wins a cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. Jim Montgomery didn't work out for all sorts of reasons in Dallas, but he comes into Boston, leads the team to President's Trophy, best record in NHL history in the regular season at Jack Adams. Could Woodcroft follow in that path? If he learns from his experience in Edmonton, he could thrive in a second opportunity, but his upside isn't quite as untapped as Love or Sturm, and he's not as fresh. Like, he has had that NHL coaching experience, but he flamed out in a big way, and the Oilers, after firing him, went to the Stanley Cup final. They're back in the Western Conference final, albeit down 1-0 to the Dallas Stars. Assistant coached by Misha Donskov, who would still be my number one choice. But failing him, if they're wanting to get this done sooner than later, I would go with Love. With Sturm, happily, either one of those two. Woodcroft, a distant third. Didn't see Jeff Halpern's name mentioned in this update, but he's a guy that I wouldn't mind seeing as well, especially over one of the other three guys that were mentioned in LeBrun's report. And we'll touch on that. We'll touch on Joe Sacco, Jay Leach, Luke Richardson, and the benefits or lack thereof of hiring them here as the podcast continues. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on coffee. Now I budget smarter and save more. And you can manage with your partner, which is made smoother than ever as well. Share tracked and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. So if Mitch Love, Marco Sturm have the edge, we have Jay Woodcroft, a distant third, a couple internal options in Jay Leach and Joe Sacco. I'm going to go right ahead and take Luke Richardson off of the table. He was most recently a head coach for the Chicago Blackhawks. He was an assistant previously with the Montreal Canadiens, the New York Islanders, head coach of the Binghamton Senators, now the Belleville Senators, the AHL team for the Ottawa Senators. He is a respected veteran of the NHL bench with a defense-first mindset and a calm demeanor. He led the Blackhawks through a very difficult rebuild phase and was praised for creating a healthy culture despite the roster challenges and despite the way the previous culture had really been tarnished through the scandal that tore through that organization. Very difficult job that he stepped into. He has, of course, experience as both a player and a coach, which lends him credibility, especially with veteran-laden teams. He brings structure and respect to the organization, but his ceiling feels lower than other candidates. He's more of a stabilizer, I'd say, than a visionary. If the Bruins want to tighten up defensively, maintain order during these transition years, he fits. But it's not really a bold new direction and doesn't really fit with Cam Neely and Don Sweeney saying that they wanted to evolve offensively with this group. Another guy I'd probably put above Richardson is, of course, Jay Leach, assistant coach with the Bruins, formerly an assistant with the Seattle Kraken, head coach of the Providence Bruins. He's already deeply embedded within the organization, has done excellent work developing players at both the AHL and NHL level. He's smart, calm, respected by both veterans and prospects alike. While he's not really a system innovator per se, his AHL coaching record of 136, 77, and 26 shows he knows how to win and develop. And he's had a hand in developing several current prominent Boston Bruins who have been developed through the organization. And he could have the opportunity to do so once again. He doesn't maybe have the sizzle of a breakout star coach, but he's well regarded enough to have been poached for a time by the Seattle Kraken. He would represent continuity without complacency. He's got internal familiarity, leadership, makes him a safe, sensible bet. Maybe that's what Don Sweeney wants right now, what he needs after being given this contract extension earlier this week, but still has a somewhat tenuous standing with the team. He could be a long-term organizational culture builder, steady, but not spectacular. Hey, maybe that's just what this team needs right now. Not a sexy gamble, but kind of a safe choice. The safest choice could be just taking the interim tag off Joe Sacco, who's been an associate coach with the Bruins, head coach of the Colorado Avalanche. He's been with this team since before Don Sweeney came aboard, 2014. He survived the firing of Claude Julien, the firing of Bruce Cassidy, the firing of Jim Montgomery. briefly head coach of the Avs back in 2009 to 2013 with a mixed record. That was before they really took off in the Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen era. His appointment as interim coach following Jim Montgomery's dismissal was logical, but that doesn't make him the best long-term solution. He is a known quantity with no major flaws, but no elite qualities either. He did bring a modicum of stability after Montgomery was fired, a brief improvement, but then kind of the roster was torn out from under him. He could step in and run the bench without disruption, but if the Bruins are looking to evolve or reinvent themselves, keeping a guy who's been around longer than Don Sweeney likely isn't going to kind of bring about that change. Safe fallback, but low upside, and I think Don Sweeney needs the optics of bringing somebody in new. They can't just extend Sweeney and then take the interim tag off Sacco and expect that to be a popular move. So among the reported finalists for the Bruins head coaching job, Mitch Love stands out as the highest upside candidate thanks to his modern approach, development success, back-to-back AHL Coach of the Year awards, but Marco Sturm is right behind him, offering a calm, structured presence with international pedigree and strong leadership potential. He's also familiar with the Bruins, but also been gone long enough that he'll bring in some fresh eyes. Woodcroft, proven NHL experience, offensive creativity, but slightly downgraded due to his abrupt exit from Edmonton. Jay Leach offers continuity and internal familiarity. Sacco presents low ceiling potential, seems best suited as the transitional or stopgap option. Luke Richardson brings steadiness, defensive structure. I could see them going with Richardson for that defensive bit, head coaching experience, Woodcroft for the offensive evolution. There's red flags, or at least yellow flags, with both of those guys. Love and Sturm are both risky as well because they don't have that NHL head coaching experience. But at the end of the day, I would still prefer the Bruins to take a chance on one of these guys with much higher potential and upside and who deserve an opportunity to become an NHL head coach. You don't get that experience without being first given a shot. Woodcroft had a shot with a loaded Oilers team, couldn't get the job done. Richardson had a tough gig in Chicago, but still, I don't really see him as the guy. So if this time next week we're looking at a new head coach, my hope is that it is either Mitch Love or Marco Sturm, and hopefully he has a rejuvenated Jeremy Swayman and Elias Lindholm in the lineup. Both of those guys are still alive at the World Championships. They're going to go head-to-head on Saturday in the semifinals, and we'll discuss that here as the podcast continues. Thursday was quarterfinals day at the IIHF World Championships. Czechia entered the day as the reigning champions, going up against Team Sweden, who came out with a 5-2 victory over the Czechs. So David Pastrnak and Jacob Lauko eliminated from this tournament with a loss. Pastrnak did get a assist on a goal scored by Roman Cervenka, and he did finish the tournament as one of the leading scorers. In fact, he has the tournament lead with 15 points in 8 games for Czechia. And the next closest guy was Cervenka, also from Czechia. Nathan MacKinnon, Travis Konechny, Sidney Crosby came in next with 13 and 12 points, respectively. They were eliminated by Denmark. So that was a huge upset, like one of the biggest in IIHF history. No Canadians on Team Canada, of course. With the Czechs being eliminated, the Swedes moving on. Our boy Elias Lindholm did not record a point in that quarterfinal game, but he is now the active leading scorer at this tournament with 11 points in 8 games. He's got 7 goals, 4 assists for 11 total points, and that's without recording one in that game yesterday against Czechia, in which he played more of a important shutdown role. So he's got 11 points, tied with Frank Nazar of Team USA and Tyler Moy of Switzerland, who's still alive as well, and Teuvo Teravainen of Finland, who has been eliminated. Switzerland beat Austria. Canada lost to Denmark. Sweden beat Czechia, and then the Americans beat Team Finland to advance as well. And of course, a couple key Bruins in that one. Jeremy Swayman made 20 saves on 22 shots for the win. And Andrew Peak also played in that one, did not get a point, but has been a contributor in this tournament. Our boy Mason Lohrei was scratched. He hasn't played in a few games, and they're carrying 8 defensemen, I think. Zev Buim getting in there over Mason Lohrei. This sets up a Sweden-Finland semifinal on Saturday. Sorry, what am I saying? Sweden-USA semifinal on Saturday. The winner will take on the winner of Switzerland and Denmark. So it will be Jeremy Swayman going up against Elias Lindholm in that final. Now, among goaltenders in this tournament, Swayman has now played in a bunch of games for USA, the majority, 5 games. He's got a 1.97 goals against average, but his save percentage not super stellar. He ranks 13th with a save percentage of 89.69. So while it's encouraging to see him stepping up and starting for this team, taking them to the semifinals, it would be very encouraging, of course, to see him have a monster game in the semifinals and to lead Team USA to a gold medal. The best case scenario at this point for the Bruins and for Swayman is for him to, win a gold medal for this team, shut down Sweden, shut down Switzerland or Denmark, and get that confidence back to be a winning goalie. The quarterfinal wasn't his sharpest outing, but he made key saves when needed and helped the U.S. reach the semifinals, where they will take on the Swedes. Swayman's still in the hunt for gold. Lindholm also still in the hunt for gold, and he's been instrumental in Sweden's journey to the semis, leading the team with 7 goals, 11 points, tied for the most among still active players in this tournament. He had a standout performance with a natural hat trick in a win over Slovenia, secured a perfect 6-0 record in the group stage. And then, of course, in the quarters, Sweden defeated Czechia. Lindholm contributed significantly throughout the tournament with his offense, consistent two-way play as well, vital for Sweden's success. And his resurgence on the international stage is encouraging for the Bruins as he looks to carry this momentum into the upcoming NHL season. Both guys, regardless of the outcome on Saturday, have a chance to finish with medals, to finish positive note what has been a down season for both. And that would be a great thing to report back on here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. That game goes at, I believe, 2:20 on Saturday afternoon. Should be a good one for sure. Oilers, Stars, game 2 tonight. If you aren't checking out Locked On NHL Game Night, you're missing out on fantastic analysis on every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. You can find that on the Locked On NHL feed, on your favorite podcast app, and on YouTube. Please do subscribe to Locked On Bruins on your favorite pod app and on YouTube if you haven't already. And it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Thank you so much for listening, friends. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Have a good weekend. It's been super rainy up here. I know it's a long weekend down there. Weather's not looking too good in New England either, it looks like. I likely will be back on Monday with an episode because not a holiday up here. So I'll bring you all the latest on the Boston Bruins, but please do have a happy and safe, fun Memorial Day weekend. And whatever you're doing, whether it's going to see Mission Impossible, Lilo and Stitch, hitting the beach, going to a baseball game, please do take care of yourselves and have a great time. And we'll talk to you here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.